Hi, this is Cheryl St.Pierre, and this is a Beebeecraft tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to make the finger swirl bar with cluster necklace. Now, this is my prototype, which I want to mention. I worked very hard getting the optimal cluster design for this. It doesn't have beads sitting at the back, just the front, and it took many tries to get there, but I'm finally happy with it and thought it would be great to share with you. Now, what we are featuring of Beebeecraft for you, and I got these specifically to make this because I've had the idea for this necklace before I put my order in, and we're going to use the medium violet red tiger eye beads. They're dyed that color. And I thought they would be great in the cluster because they have the hand cut facets and because they are the tiger eye. They got kind of like that flash in them. When they turn around, they change. And I just thought, you know, that they make such a beautiful cluster. I don't know what it looks like yet. We'll be making it together. I was using other beads just to get the design right. And we're also going to use the Mayuka beads that I got in this package as well. And what they do for us is, because we're making special head pins for this, they are our stops to keep the beads on it. Otherwise, a 6mm bead would just come right off of these head pins. So it's all in the design, and it adds a little bit extra feature to it. So let's move on from that and look at our supply list. Oh, grabbed the wrong one. I had a glitch in the other one, and this one's the right one. There we go. And I've had a few retakes with this video as well, so crazy. So this is the finger swirl bar with cluster necklace, which I had mentioned before. We are going to be using 20 gauge wire, and we're going to use a 3-foot length and then a bunch of scraps. So hopefully you have a lot of scraps. This is great for tiny pieces. For the head pins, all we need is 1 1/4 inch, 1.5 inch length, and usually we're throwing those pieces away. So don't always throw those pieces away, because with projects like this, it's perfect. It's perfect. So we're also going to need some 14 gauge soft copper wire, which is 1.63mm in width. And I forgot to mention the 20 gauge is 0.8mm, but I've got it here for your snapshot. And I have the Mayuka beads link here. This will be in the description where the link actually works, and the tiger eye as well. That's the link. And then you're going to need the chain and clasp of your choice. I will not show you how to put the chain on. It's going to be pretty evident, and that's just of your personal choice. And for tools, you're going to need a Ballpein hammer and an anvil, a round nose plier, a chain nose plier, flush cutters, a file, and a ruler. I recommend a metal file for this one, because it'll wreck if you use nail files, it'll kind of wreck it quickly, and you might want to just go with a metal one. So let's move on from there. So we're going to start with making the head pins, and so you're going to take a scrap. See, I'm going to measure this one. This one's actually even long. We can use shorter, no problem. So this one's 2 inches. So yeah, I knew it was long. We don't have to have one that long. I wonder if I should, I've got another one. Well, that's made already. And this is 1 3/4, but seriously, you can use 1 1/4 lengths. It's not going to hurt. So you're going to need your lengths. I want you to cut 11 of these. You could make 12 just so you have an extra one. And it's really quick. All we're doing is hammering the very end. We're not touching the rest of it. So you're just taking your ball peen, the tip of it, and just the end. That's all you're hammering so that it looks like that. Okay, then so I want you to do that to all of them. Okay, so we're going to do it assembly line style. That'll save you time. Otherwise this could become a time-consuming project, and when you assembly line this project in particular, it really saves on the time. So then the next step is you take all of them. I'll get this out of the way. And you just, we're going to get it so it doesn't have burrs. And we're just going to round it out and make sure it's not sharp. It's still going to be, I mean, if you jab somebody, it still will hurt. But the way it's being worn, that won't happen. So we just don't want it to have sharp edges. I want to be able to do this, just like an ear wire end, with it out hurting you. And that one's ready. So I want you to do that to all of your head pins till you have, you might as well make 12, because it's good to have an extra one in case one falls on the floor, and you're ready to go then. So then the next step is to take your one of your Mayuka beads. You can, you know, just take them out one at a time in the bag. I like these bags because the Ziploc kind of holds it closed. It's nice and stiff and they don't spill out very easily, but it's good to zip it up anyways. You could either take your 11 or 12 out ahead of time. So you're just going to put that on there. Oh, and I should say, there's the odd one that won't fit, but I've only had, out of about 30 beads that I've tried, only had about 2 beads that didn't fit on there. So, I mean, the odds are pretty good that they're going to fit. And see how it stops right before that hammering? It's perfect. So these are perfect little beads to do this, because, and I should demonstrate it. I know with my other beads I used, the beads just fell off. See, it just falls right off. So you need that seed bead on there to be your stop. Okay, so there it is. And my tiger eye there, and it can't go anywhere. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to hold the beads down tightly, tight to the bottom where it stopped, and then you're going to bend this wire like this. And you're going to take your round nose pliers, and I'm using the center of my round nose pliers to be consistent. It's an easy thing for me to eyeball so that all of them have the same size loop, because that'll make them the same length long as well. So you just bend it like that and bend it around so it looks like that. So it's going to be an eye, and then you're going to take your snips and you're going to go in there and just snip it as close as possible to the end where we want it, and that one's done. And there's no point in closing it right now because we're going to need it open to attach it later. So I want you to go ahead and make all 11 of them. If you want, you could make 12 to have that extra. If you want to make matching earrings, go ahead and make some extra and just put about 3 on an earring, and you could have matching earrings that way. So, or you could get fancy and make a cluster for your earrings. That's your choice, and I'm sure that you'll be able to figure out how to do a matching set of earrings. Now, I have all mine made ahead of time, and you probably figured that out because I didn't have the full strand sitting there when I was showing it to you. And aren't they pretty? They're probably not close enough to see. I love the variations. It reminds me of cherries. I'm not sure why. It's the color of cherries, definitely. Beautiful color. Okay, so then set those aside. And because they're faceted ear beads, they are not going to roll away on you. So you can just set them aside, not worry about them. So the next thing I want you to do is take your 4.5 inch piece of 14 gauge wire, and we want it fairly straight, so we could hammer it straight. With this type of wire, I would recommend hammering it straight. Should have done this ahead of time, but I guess it's good for me to demo it too. I'm just flattening it, and I'm just lightly tapping it. So wherever there's a curve, make the curve go up. Okay, I think that's close enough. Now the next thing you're going to do is you want to find the approximate center of this. Now I've made it extra long and we're trimming it, so don't worry about not being the exact measurement. So we had 4.5, I've actually got 4.25. So I'm just going around 2 inches in. Just go, actually you could go a little bit more than 2 inches in. Take your pliers and make a crisp bend. We don't want to bend too much because we want it to have a large opening V. See, it's far from 90 degrees, so I don't know what degree that is, but we want it to look kind of like this, where it's really wide open. And again, that could be a personal choice. You could make it more V-like. Okay, and so the next thing you're going to do is we're going to take a point on here. If you wanted to put a permanent marker mark on it that you're measuring from, but we want it from the tip of the bottom band. We're going to measure 2 inches and trim it off on both sides, because it's hard to go exactly and a band with this wide a wire. It's really hard. You need to do the official measurement after it's been bent. So I'm taking that tip, putting it at the start of the inch, and I'm going to trim it off right there. And this is awkward. I'm actually going to use my other wire cutters. This was part of my set I got a long time ago from Beebeecraft. It matches my round nose pliers. And I like to use it for the larger wires so I don't wreck my my little snips too much. Okay, and that flew, so you don't want people around you when you do it, that's for sure. And now I'm going to do the same for the other side. There. I'm going to make it a little bit longer and trim it a second time. Okay, so that one is exactly 2 inches. Okay, that one's just a smidge longer. No, not even a millimeter. There. Okay, at this point, I think we will file it before we hammer it. We just want to get this burrs off and round it out. And it can be a little time consuming depending on how well your pliers cut. Mine didn't do such a bad job. Just want to get the sharpness off. And after we hammer, we will check again, make sure that there isn't any sharpness. Now, after you're done hammering, if you're not planning on oxidizing, you may want to buff this nice and shiny before you put the wrapping around it, because when you hammer it on your anvil, it tends to pick a bit of the metal up onto it, which makes it oxidize faster, and it gets a dark color to it. So I would highly recommend buffing it off. I even buffed mine off before I oxidized it and buffed it to make it this. You might choose to go ahead and do what I did here, because it really accentuates the swirls. I just love the effect, and I did it all ahead of time, except for the chain, and put it all in my fumes of ammonia, and left it for about 40 minutes, and then buffed. And I buffed the back as well as the front. And there, it's just a tidbit of information for you. Okay, so what we're wanting to do now is just get a mild hammering effect. We're not trying to flatten it. We're going to flatten the ends a little bit more. We're going to flare out the ends a little bit more. I don't know if you can see that here. So it's kind of like the head pin effect that we're doing. But as far as here, we're not hammering it a lot. Just enough to give it that hammered look wherever it shows through. And so it's just I start at the center and work out. See, it's not hard at all. I'm just doing that. So it's not really flattening it. And just do the length. And then at the end, flare it out a bit carefully though. Okay, so there, that's done. I didn't flatten it a lot, but just enough to give it that flared look. And at that point, you may need to do the filing. But go ahead and do the other side exactly the same way, and I will do that off screen. Okay, so I'm back, and I've hammered it all. Now, mine is a little bit unlevel, not bad. Yours might be more warped. So I want you to just tip it upside down and check it out like that. Mine's very little. And just tap it. Because we don't want to flatten all the hammering we did, but we just want to level it out. So I'm barely tapping it. Gently. Okay, and then if you bent it this way at all, I would recommend just straightening it out with your chain nose pliers. Mine's pretty good, but I know it can bend on you if you're hammering a little bit off from one side to the other, it can wave on you. Okay, so from this point on, we're done with the anvil and hammer. And next step is to check this to see if it needs filing. That's pretty good. Both of them. I don't need to do filing on mine, but you might need to do yours. And at this point, I'm going to take a nail buff. I couldn't find my old one, had to grab a new one. And just buff off any metal that might oxidize the copper faster, give it a non-coppery look. And the back's going to have more. And of course your fingers are going to get dirty. My fingernails got dirty from doing my other one, definitely. Especially when I buffed it after oxidizing it. Okay, so that's ready for the next step now. So now I want you to I'm going to keep this handy because we're going to be using it right away. And take your 20 gauge wire. Oh, there it is. So you have 3 feet. I want you to fold it in half and give it a bend, because really what we're wanting is 2 1.5 foot lengths, but we're going to have it together. Don't trim that off. That's going to help us control our wire a little bit. And I just need to take a break to take a drink. My throat is getting dry. Hang on. Okay, so I'm back, and so we have this wire folded in half, and now we want to kind of find the center again. We don't want to fold it, but we want to find the center just so that we can find, that's where we're going to start, is the center, and we're just going to go like this, and this is the front of the V. And we're actually going to now twist it like this. And we're going to wrap around this once, as neat as we can. And we actually want that to be cinched up closer together. So I'm actually going to take my pliers and carefully, like that, and I'm actually going to squish it down a little bit, and it's going to have movement. There's no way of avoiding that. And now we're going to bend this in an arch, because we want a space for our dangle to hang from. So we kind of want it rounded like that, and then we want to wrap once around on the other side, and this can get really awkward and it can move on you, and it's going to move. It will move on you lots, and there's really no way of avoiding it. And I'm just going to cinch that up as well. Okay, so we have it like that, and now I'm pushing it together to just round that out a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to make our first swirls, and I'm having this as an example in front of me just so I can remind myself what direction the swirls are supposed to be. So this swirl is going to go in this way and go clockwise. So we're just gonna, and we're gonna swirl right over top of there. So if you marred that by crimping it down, doesn't matter, because we're covering it with a swirl. Okay, and then we want it to have an arch down like that. And now this one, we're going this way, counterclockwise, and doing the exact same thing. And see how it's not centered? It'll have that movement. It's going to be hard to avoid that movement. Even when it's finished, it can still move. Not nearly as much, but okay. So now at this point, we're going to hold this down and we're going to wrap neatly around once. So support this, keep it in its place, bend it, take it to the back, and then down like that. So it's going to be like that. We're not going to cinch it up. We're going to leave it like that. So you're wanting to make that close. And now we're going to go on the other side, do the exact same process, and try and make that distance there that equal to keep it similar on both sides. So what I'm doing is I'm flipping it upside down, supporting it with my thumb, and then pulling down like that. And it is very similar. So we always work the right and the left. This one I'm going to push in a little bit more. My fingers. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is this swirl. So we're going to go this way. So we're going counterclockwise and then going and making it kind of like bigger and up. So it's nice little swirl, and it might flip up on you, so we're going to try and keep it over top of the wire. So it's like that, and now I'm going to come around, not tightly. We want this swirl to be bigger. Just try and keep it nice and rounded. Like that. So you want it to have airspace. Okay, and now it's doing the mirrored one is going to be more challenging. And we're working backwards. So this one, this was counterclockwise, this one's going to be clockwise, but I'm going to put it upside down to make that small. I'm going to support it over top of the wire because we don't want it to flip off. And you want it to be about the same size as this, and that's pretty good. So if it was too big, then you'd tighten it up. If it was too small, then you'd push it back open. But mine's just right. And now I need to make it the airy loop now. And we want to be careful not to kink it. And at this point, this wire is kinking up on me. I'm going to actually trim it open now. It was causing problems for me. Okay. And it's being held together already, so that could have been done before. Okay, I think that's similar. Compare. Is it similar? I think this one's maybe a little bit tighter, so I'm just gonna tighten that up a little bit. Okay, I'm good with that. Now we're going to do an angle swirl over it. See, it's lots of space in it because we want it to now go to the end, or almost to the end. So we're going to go like this and back around. So it looks like that. And I'm going to stop at that and do the other side the same way. Nice angle. So it looks nice and neat. There, I've got it pretty centered. It's not moving. It's kind of locked really good on me. It has a little bit of movement, but I'm really, really happy with that. Those swirls have turned out really nice. If you're not happy with your swirls, you can cut them off and start again and try again until you're happy. So then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to arch kind of like a swirl here, because we need a loop to put one of these links on to hang your necklace. So that's what that is. So you're going to push it like that, and we have to have enough room to wrap around at the end. So if you need to push it back a little bit more, that's fine. And then once you got that, hold it down, support it, wrap around once, and have it down. And I got lots of extra length. If you wanted to make your wire shorter than 3 feet, by all means do, especially if you were using sterling silver. Definitely, I would say you could go 2.5 feet. I just wanted to give you lots of working space. So now I'm going to bend this up to make my loop. And we want it to be similar. And I'd say that's pretty similar. It might take you a little bit more time than me to do that. And now I'm supporting it and wrapping it around. And then it goes down. I did that with my left hand. So I normally do it with my right. It ended up being a little bit smaller, but not too bad. I'm going to be happy with it. Now the next step is I made it have these loops in the front, and you could choose to do it in the back if you didn't want them in the front. I liked it in the front. If you're wanting it in the front, snip your wires off at about 1 centimeter. So I always recommend that you have metric on your ruler. 1 centimeter on the metric side is from one number to the next. That length is a centimeter. There's 2.5 of those in an inch. The little lines in between are the millimeters. So that's a centimeter. So we want it about 1 centimeter long. If you're wanting them to go in the back, you'll have more length to do that. So you'll need it like 1.5 centimeters to snip it off. So that's your choice. And so I'm just eyeballing my 1 centimeter, snipping them both off. There, I've got scraps to make head pins. So, you know, if you wanted to do this part first and then make your head pins, by all means, but I'm going to use this to make the infinity links that we have to make yet. Which I said we were done with the anvil and hammer, and no, we're not. Because I use them for the infinity links as well. Okay, I've got that trimmed, and now I do this part with my chain nose. You could choose to do it with your round nose, and we are going to split those wires apart. And I've got this upside down now. We're going inwards because this is the right side. Okay, I've got it, and now I'm curling this part too. I want it to be rounded and up. So we're actually gonna go so it almost touches the 14 gauge wire. And you wanna make sure it's flat so that so that the end touches the wire. Very gently doing this. Don't want any marring. Okay, so that's good. And now we're going to do the other one, and we don't want it as far. We want to give it, you can actually go over the other one a little bit, which I did on that one. same direction. So this is the front now. I'm just going to put it overlapping a little bit, just like that. And that's done. You could have it further back. That's your personal preference. Okay, and now we're going to do the other side the exact same way. I'm holding it upside down from the front this time and doing the exact same process. So I like it when it has that curve there. It adds so much. Okay, and I'm going to do this one. This one doesn't want to curve so much, so I'm going to coax it to do the curve carefully. There, I succeeded. Okay, now I want them to look similar. So I'm going to make this one go over top a little bit. And I think I have them looking similar. Now, I wasn't watching where I was on screen. I sure hope I was on screen for most of that. I think I was. Okay, so the bar is done, besides oxidizing. So that's complete. And now we're going to take those scraps with the hammer and we're going to need the hammer and anvil and the scraps, and we are going to make 2 large infinity links and 2 medium infinity links. The large ones are to make the chain that the beads will hang off for the cluster. So I'm made the largest loop that my pliers will make. So I'm right at the bottom, right there. Okay, I'm going to push this up. And at that point, I can snip this off. So I want 2 that size. I'm just going to make 1 in front of you. And then we want a medium one to hang the chain off. I buried my round. There it goes. And I'm going to do the medium, the middle of my pliers for that. Same process. Make your loop. Go like this. Push it in. And snip it off. Okay, so make 2 of those, that size. And then we're going to work harden them with the hammer and anvil. And I don't want you putting pressure. I just want basically dropping the hammer on it. Do it about 20 times. And it's going to flatten it a little bit, but not severely. You just want it to be strong. If you don't think it's strong enough, do it another 10 times. Okay, so that's work hardened enough. So I want you to go ahead and do that to yours, and I'll be right back while I do it to mine. Okay, so I've work hardened my links, and I actually did the larger ones 40 taps. Because they're bigger, they're not as strong. And so, just so you know, now what I'm going to do is the smaller ones are going on these loops here, and it can be tricky getting them on there because it wants to fall off. So you almost have to hold it on with your fingers while you do this. And you want to make sure that it's synced up really nice. Flatten it again, and then the chain will go on the other part of it. Okay, so that's ready for the chain. Don't put the chain on at this point. It'll just frustrate you when you're putting on the beads. So the next step is to put these links right here. Close it up nice and neat because we don't want the beads falling off. And I'm just going to close that up nice and tight and flatten it, and you know, give it an extra squeeze. Okay, and now we'll put this one on. It had an opening, so that made it that easy for me. Close it up. And then close up the other one. Okay. So when I first started, I had 3 links and it just made the cluster too long and it looked really awkward. So I shortened things up. I actually did it too so that there was beads going all the way around, and that made it look funny too. So that's how I just kept on trying until I was happy with the look I came up with. So now for assembling purposes. Now this first link is facing forward and the second link is facing sideways, so we have to put the beads on differently because of that. So what we're going to do is just put the beads on the front of the first link, and what's keeping them at the front is the fact that we have the bar on there and we have the other link on this one. So we want them on the front half. We're going to put 3 each. Each link's going to have 3. So you're going to need 6 of your beads at the ready to do this. Oops, those are just beads. What am I doing? Okay, got 5, 6. Okay, and they're going to need to be open. Just open wide enough to get on there. And once you've got it on there, just hold the bead itself to support it and then close that link as best you can because you don't want it to come off. And make it straight. And now get the second one ready. And continue doing that until you have 3 on the front. And I'm going to just keep assembling it on. I'm tempted to do it offline. So this is the front, so you got to make sure you have the front. Okay, and now I'm going to hold the bead to close it up. Make sure it's straight. Okay, so that's 2. Okay, I've got it on top. hold the bead to close it up. Straighten it. Okay, so that is the 3 beads on the top circle of the first infinity link. Now we're going to do the exact same thing. So this is on top. We're holding this link on the bottom, and all 3 are going to go in the top part. And I'm going to do that offline because I think you should have it by now. I'm going to put it close and explain. So this is on top. I mean, this is facing upwards, and this, we're holding this, and all 3 beads are going to go on top, so that this link will be at the back of the 3 beads. So the bead will go on here. Okay, so I'm putting 3 of them there. Okay, so I have the 6 beads on the top infinity link. Okay, so the next infinity link we have to treat very differently. I'm just gonna get here it is. So because it's sitting side to side, we would put 1 bead on each side, but we want 3 beads. So we're going to put 1 bead on each side, but we're also going to have 1 bead on the center wire that's between the 2 loops. So what I'm going to do that one first, just so you can see what I mean by that. So I have to open up this bead. And I'm going to it's a little bit awkward. Okay, so I have it. You can see here. I'm going to close it up and then show you, because it's going to come off if I don't close it up. Okay, there. It's right in the center there between the 2 links or loops. Okay, now we're going to put 1 bead on the left and the right. Okay, so I've got 2 beads here. I'm going to open them up. And it gets really awkward. Close it up. Okay, so now one needs to be on this side. Need to open up more. Sorry about that. This is the hardest part, I think, of putting the beads on. So I have one on that side. Now I need one on this side. Okay. Now I can close it up. And then it's easy sailing from here. Now the bottom loop, we're only putting, there's no back, no front, no left, no right to worry about. We just are putting 2 beads. Oh, I must have dropped one. I'm just got to do a search for it. I'll be right back. I had to actually quickly make another one. My bead just walked away and I couldn't find it. So that's why it's good to have 12 made instead of 11. Okay, so the bottom link, which doesn't have any really on it yet, we're just setting 2 on it. Open that up a little bit bigger. Thought it was big enough. And there it is. Isn't that pretty? Wow, it's way prettier than the other one. Oh, I like the facets and the colors. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Wow. Okay. Now I'm just gonna put my chain on. I won't oxidize it for the video. Okay. All done. Beautiful, beautiful. Wow. Those beads are just way, way more beautiful than I thought they'd ever be. Gorgeous. Wow, I'm gonna have a hard time selling this one. Do you guys ever have that issue? Yeah? Tell me in the comments. Tell me in the comments. Do you make something? Do you have a hard time selling it because you want it for yourself? Well, there it is. Thank you so much for joining me. I just wanted to say something for Beebeecraft. If you are interested in becoming a package opener and doing little tutorials, they don't have to be like mine. They sell more than just jewelry making stuff. It can be anything. All you need is a little channel with 100 subscribers, and you too can join the program to be the package opening, to do the package opening. The link for applying is in the description. Just take a look and go for it. It's lots of fun. So God bless, take care, and we will see you in the next one. Bye for now.